from the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. So our resident cybersecurity experts, Associate Professor Dr. Normaziah Abdul Aziz, Assistant Professor Dr. Hafizah Mansor, and Assistant Professor Dr. Andi Fitriah Abdul Kadir. Our moderator for the talk, Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. So our resident cybersecurity experts, Associate Professor Dr. Normaziah Abdul Aziz. Our moderator for the talk will be Sister Shaila Sharmin. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Sister Shaila. Tafadal.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amir. Allow me to please share our slides. Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. As Dr. Amir mentioned, my name is Shaila Sharmin. I am a final year undergraduate student, and I'm also a research intern at the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity, or CoExCyS. So today I will be the moderator for our seminar on how cybersecurity cuts across disciplines. So our world today runs on computer systems. Every organization is becoming increasingly reliant on different kinds of technology. So this is especially true in our post-pandemic world, where employees are working from home, more and more services are moving online. However, this is also making us more vulnerable to cyber attacks, which can completely disrupt day-to-day operations and can even cause millions of dollars in damages. So to keep ourselves safe in today's digital world, we need people across all disciplines to be aware of and indeed prioritize cybersecurity, which is exactly what we will be discussing today. So now please allow me to introduce our panelists. Our first panelist is Dr. Normaziah Abdul Aziz. Now, Dr. Normaziah has studied computer science in the United States for a degree and was sent by MIMOS for her PhD at the Department of AI in University of Edinburgh in Scotland. Prior to her academic profession at IIUM, she had experience working at the Central Bank of Malaysia and MIMOS. Her almost 20 years of experience at MIMOS has played an important role in her academic career at IIUM. She is currently the head of CoExCyS, that is the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity at KICT IIUM. Our second panelist today is Dr. Hafizah Mansor. Dr. Hafizah has completed her Bachelor in Electrical and Electronics Engineering at University Tenaga Nasional and obtained her Master's in Computer Science at University Technology Malaysia. After working for some years in the industry, she went on to achieve a PhD from Royal Holloway University of London for her work on the security and privacy aspects of automotive systems. Dr. Hafizah is presently an assistant professor at KICT IIUM, and she is also a member of CoExCyS at KICT. Lastly, but certainly not the least, we have Dr. Andi Fitriah Abdul Kadir. Dr. Andi is an IIUM alumni. She completed her bachelor degree in computer science in 2009, and obtained her master's in computer science in 2013 from IIUM. In 2019, she went on to receive a PhD for her work on mobile security from the University of New Brunswick, Canada. She has experience working at the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity as a researcher, working closely with several industry partners, including IBM and Bulletproof Solution. She's currently an assistant professor at KICT IIUM and is also a member of the Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. Okay, so before we begin, I would like to let you know that if you have any questions for our panelists throughout our discussion, please feel free to send them in the chat on Zoom and YouTube, right? Our panelists will answer your questions at the end of the discussion. Okay, so are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yes. So I will direct my first question to Dr. Maziah. Can you please explain what is cybersecurity and why is it so important for us to discuss this particular topic, that is cybersecurity cutting across disciplines?
Thank you, Shaila and Dr. Amir. Okay, thank you, everyone. So welcome to this webinar, since I'm the first speaker. All right, to answer your questions, Shaila, I think it's, and also for the benefit of the public, layman, let me get back. What is cybersecurity actually is, okay? If you take the word security, basically it's about protecting something. You want to be safe, you want to be secure. In this case, we're talking about cybersecurity because today's world, we are dealing a lot with, what do you call that? Sorry, hold on, yeah. We're dealing a lot with cyber world, with the internet and so on. So in that case, we are actually dealing with a lot of things on the cyber world. And that's where the cyber security comes in. That means securing things, activities that we do in the cyber world, which is actually a recognition of what's happening in the physical world. That's the thing. Okay, so cybersecurity is actually about securing assets. Okay, you want to protect your assets. Assets means something that is valuable in our life. So in this case, I'm just going to highlight how cybersecurity is related in our daily life. If you look at the CNNI, okay, the critical national information infrastructures or sectors, which is something that is very important in any country to run safely, to run harmoniously. Okay, so all countries need this kind of CNNI. They could be 10, it could be 11, it could be 5. It depends. Different countries have different numbers, but it all comprises almost the same across the world. So in the context of Malaysia, we have 10 or 11, and recently 11, which actually the sectors includes transportation, electricity, water, agriculture, food, military, governments, and so on. Okay, so these are all something that relates to us in our daily life, and a lot of things has been connected, has been automated, and it needs to be secured, because otherwise there are things that could be tampered, compromised, and cause haywire. Another aspect, if you want to look at from our university aspects, because we practice and also highlight on the issue of Makasi al-Sharia. This is also about protecting assets. Okay? In this case, in Makasi al-Sharia, we categorize the assets to be in 5 categories: protection of deen, protection of nafs, akal, okay? Protection of nafs and mal. Okay? Okay, this is also part and parcel in our life, and cybersecurity comes in also in order to protect and make things, our activities safe and secure. Yeah, I think I've been using the term safe and secure. When you talk about safe, I will be referring a lot more of things that related to people. You want to be safe. Okay, we talk about security. We are dealing with systems, infrastructure, yeah, and so on. So in that case, that's the reason why I think we need to highlight this. Cybersecurity is actually dealing our daily life, and it walks across many activities in our life. Can you share the next one, Shaila?
Yes.
Okay. Having said that, okay, but professionally, we have a very shortage of cybersecurity professionals, right? And this has been going on for years and years, because it is not easy to get a proper or a very competent cybersecurity professionals. So you may get, but they may not be. They may not know in depth, or they may know in silos, or you may not get the right quality at the right time. So studies have been made by ISACA. ISACA is an international and established association related to cybersecurity. Yeah, I've looked at in two separate years, 2017, where I was doing a research at that time together with the Academy of Science Malaysia. We see that the shortage is still there. Okay, a lot of complaints by employers. Okay, they couldn't find appropriate people on time. Okay, even they have to wait long, so on. When I look back at the same report the same ISACA initiative in 2021, which is actually before the first quarter, the first half of this year, which is in May, they still see the same thing. Okay, the studies shows the same thing, whereby there is a shortage of understaffed of security professionals, and this is what is more worrying is that it is also correlate with the more cyber attacks that's happening. Especially with the pandemic, a lot of cyber attacks also occurred. Okay, that brings to, okay, Shaila, next slide, Shaila. Okay, that brings us to some initiative from CoExCyS, because I happen to be representing IIUM, representing a team that is to write an advisory report for Academy Science of Malaysia, and that advisory report is to be tabled and to be recommended to the government, especially in this case, we were dealing with the National Science Council for Malaysia. So what happened in that study, and we made a report and recommendation. I just want to extract one of the recommendations. It's about talent, which is actually in chapter 5. If anybody wants to refer to it, you can refer. It's available online. This report is available online. But it says that we have to develop a roadmap whereby we have to produce as many, in terms of quality and also quantity, talent in cybersecurity. So in order to create a safe and a secure and cyber environment in our country and also globally. So in this case, a lot of effort has been done, which is certification, and many industries, many sectors, many education sectors, training sectors are offering a certification perspective. Okay, but one thing that has not been done, and I think we are responsible as academic to take up this issue, is that we have to embed cybersecurity across courses that we teach. Okay, we have to embed and what do you call that, rise or introduce or highlight security issues to non-ICT courses. For example, embed cybersecurity across courses. A good example is cybersecurity in software engineering, software development, cybersecurity in operating system. Okay, it may not be a special course. You don't have to be a special course, but in each course we do relate it so that our students, who will actually later be the professionals, the workers for the country, will actually have that in mind already. If you develop software, you have to have security in your mind in terms of the design, for example. I'll share with that later, in detail later. Same thing with having security in mind in financial transaction that you develop, or having security in mind in cyber law, in what you call it, smart health systems and so on. So that's what we mean by across disciplines. And I think my colleagues will share more. And that's the reason why we have this topic. And what I've said is actually to put things in context for today's discussion. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Normaziah. So I'll now move to Dr. Hafizah. Could you please highlight some examples to underscore the importance of what Dr. Normaziah has mentioned?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so in today's world, like I was saying, almost everything is connected. We are connected through internet, on our social media. Our physical devices are also connected through internet. We have our phones, we have our smartwatches, we have our home appliances even, right? So examples of technologies involved in this Internet of Things. So this is possible through the use of Internet of Things. So examples of technology involves machine learning, we have machine-to-machine communication, we have also artificial intelligence. All right.
Yeah.
So can you go to the next one? All right. So all this, it operates with zero or minimal intervention. And it can make decisions on its own. It operates with the help of sensors, devices, networks, actuators, and also possibly user interfaces. And this requires interoperability to ensure inclusivity of all players. So for example, right, you're driving a car, and you need to know the destination and the traffic condition. So which is the best route to take? So you open out your phone, check your Waze, which is the best route to take based on the traffic condition, for example. Another example, the doctor needs to access a live health record. The patient is at home. Doctor needs to know how is the patient doing, right? Without even going physically face to face. Next one, maybe you're on your way home and want to make sure that the home is perfectly conditioned, set the temperature right. We want to cook something, get ready for dinner, want to wash our clothes. We can set everything on our way home through our mobile device. So everything is connected. So interoperability, we need, for this system, interoperability is required. Open and easily accessible data is very important, right? And potentially there are interconnection and overlapping of data between all these different applications. However, right, introducing this new technology with open and easily accessible data, this introduces a potential harm, right? So if anyone is able to access your data, how is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we need to have cybersecurity in all the different applications.
Okay, so really everything is very interconnected today. Okay, so Dr. Andi, I'll turn to you now. There are some very interesting examples given by Dr. Hafizah. So do you have anything, more examples, to share with us?
All right, thank you, Shaila. Well, our topic today actually reminds me of my experience when I was working with the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity in Canada during my PhD time. The CIC Institute was not founded yet at that time. Okay, it was known as Information Security Center of Excellence. Similar goal with CoExCyS now, right? So I joined the university in 2014. And at that time, they are in the process of being the institute for Canada, right? So I was there during the transformation from COE to institute, which has played a critical role in expanding cybersecurity innovation in Canada. So the lesson learned here, how did we successfully make it, is yes, by making cybersecurity interdisciplinary. Right. So I remember we were working on developing course outline to be offered to, other students from different faculties. And then we also working with many industry partners and researchers from various disciplines, including banks, agriculture companies, and the law enforcement to cater on the network security, on malware attacks, and other cybersecurity attacks. So in my view, I would say that we can see the trends of cybersecurity in specific sectors have been changed over time, as you can see here on the slide. For example, in 2010, the focus is more on the banking and finance, right? So my experience when I joined the university in 2014, banking and finance were still the highlight at that time. Why? Because at that time, everyone was, focusing on Android. Android was introduced only after, I think, several years. Yeah. So the numbers of Android users have been increasing rapidly. 98% of them are using their Android devices and doing the mobile banking. So the cyber criminals, they took this advantage, okay, and they come up with the Android malware, Android financial malware. But after several years, I can see the trends have been shifted, okay. They're focusing more on the healthcare and medical because, as mentioned by Dr. Hafizah, IoT devices, has been, introduced. Everything is connected, right? And then now in 2021, the direction is more into the automotive engineering, right? Mm-hmm. And this is due to the Tesla, the innovation of Tesla. So overall, we in cybersecurity, we are working to help industries, researchers, to evolve and innovate. But the goal here is not just about securing. We also want to enable the business to make use the best and secure technology. All right. Yeah. So this is what is actually missing. Many, researchers somehow overlook about this enabling the business, together with the securing objective. Okay. So I think I have answered that question. Yeah. Back to you, Shaila.
All right, thank you so much. So now we will take a closer look at the current threat landscape that we are operating in, all of us. So I would like to go back to Dr. Normaziah. You have a great interest and concern in secure application development or secure coding, right? So is there something you could tell us about in this area?
Right, thank you, Shaila. Yeah, when we talk about all these interconnected activities that we are doing, we are actually relying on a lot of applications, which is actually software that's been developed by people, okay, by many people, by industry. And security attacks will not happen if there is no vulnerability that can be leveraged by the attackers. So what I'm trying to highlight is that sometimes, in fact, most of the times, quite a number of the attacks are successful because of the software or applications that has some weaknesses in it. It has loopholes, it has vulnerabilities that gives opportunity for the attackers to penetrate the network, penetrate the database, and so on. So if you go to the root of the problem, cause of the problem is that you have to look at the applications. You have to look at the software that's been developed. And this is one approach of trying to decrease or trying to avoid attacks being happened. And for that, that's where it comes the issue or the topic of secure coding or secure development applications. So here, what we need to highlight is that we have to work very closely. For example, in our Kulliyyah, we have to work very closely with the software engineering team, with the programming team, because we have to develop and inculcate our students so that whenever they develop an application or develop a program, the security is something that is already in mind. It's not something that you thought of after the fact, okay? Because it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and sometimes impossible. It's very taxful, time, resources to debug something that you have developed just because of you want to secure your system. Sometimes it gets very complicated. So what is important is to embed the security needs from the very beginning, from the design phase, from the specification, at each level. For example, if you use SDLC, each level of the SDLC, you have to have security measures in it. Same thing. It doesn't matter if you're using SDLC, DevOps, or Agile. It doesn't matter. but security has to be in mind when you develop an applications. So that's maybe in summary, that's what it is. We have tools to work on that can help us to rectify the security or the level of weaknesses if there is in our systems. Okay? And many methods can be used actually. So that's how that's where I think CoExCyS will actually focus on and help others, regardless whether it's from our kuliah or from other kuliahs or from other industries, whereby we can help to maybe do the pen test, the penetration test, harden their systems so that the application that they develop will be something that is without vulnerability. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Normaziah. And now I'd like to draw attention to a different area, smart cities. So I'd like to ask this question to Dr. Hafizah. So with technology like the Internet of Things, we are seeing the realization of what we call smart cities, right? So what are the security concerns that are associated with smart cities?
All right, thanks, Shaila. So smart city can be of many applications. We have smart energy, smart waste, smart education, smart building, like smart home, and smart mobility, or involves transportation. Okay, go to the next one.
Okay, next is a video.
Okay, so maybe let's watch a little bit of video.
Okay. coming back to the slides.
All right. So you can see there are many possible applications in smart city, right? But these applications are supposed to help us make our life easy. But imagine if you don't consider security in the process of designing the system. So whenever we want to design a system, we need to consider all the cybersecurity aspects. We need to consider the threats, the vulnerabilities, and the risk. And of course, the security requirements, right? Whenever we talk about security, people always say, oh, we have to have a security, encrypt the data. Security is not just about encryption, right? So there are many different security requirements, confidentiality, integrity, availability, which is known as CIA, right? And there are also data authentication, entity authentication, non-repudiation. Non-repudiation is to make sure that one party cannot deny that he or she has sent the message. So all these security requirements are different depending on the different applications, right? And who are the key players in the smart system, right? Smart city. So we have the decision makers. We have the CEO, COO, CFO, all the chief level, right? The CIO, Chief Information Officer, the Chief Technical Officer would surely know about the technicality aspects, right? The importance of including security into the system. However, are they able to convey the message, the importance to the other chiefs, especially the Chief Finance Officer, right? Who would say, reduce the cost, right? So how are we going to make sure that everyone know the importance of including cybersecurity in the system, right? So this is very important. So other key players include town planners, engineers, legal advisors, right? Vendors of the supply chain. We have device manufacturers, facility managers, and of course, as the users. All right. So it is not only the responsibility of the software engineer or the software developer to include security in their software products, but it's also we need the synergy of awareness of all these key players, right, to make sure that security is there to protect the system, right? All right. How to secure smart cities? Of course, we want to learn from automotive systems, automotive engineering. They have been evolving, right? During the early part of the development of automotive systems, car, right? It was made just for physical and mechanical functions. Then there are no interconnections with outside world, right? It is standalone, just like that. But now we have multiple control units within the car, and this in the car itself, it can connect to the outside world, right? So they need to change the landscape or the architecture to consider all this outside world communication, right? So we want to make sure that we learn the lesson from them. So without fail, we have to do by security by design to make sure that security is included during the design phase. So decision makers need to consider maintenance costs as part of the cost, not a one-off development cost, right? So maintenance costs will include patching up of the firmware if there is any need, right? Okay, so we need to include authentication and identification, encryption, access control whenever needed. And then security monitoring and analysis, and of course, security lifecycle management is very important in ensuring all the components are up to date. There's no security issues, right? So small components would made up the big picture, right? So even if one component is compromised, it can possibly compromise the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay, this is just an example of the different threats and countermeasures of the different applications. Okay, that'll be all from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hafizah. So I will bring attention to banking and finance, and I will ask this question to Dr. Andi.
Yes.
So, you have mentioned banking and financial services, and we know that the financial services sector has undoubtedly increased security procedures and adopted advanced technologies to deter attacks. Do you think cyber criminals still focus on this sector?
Yes, exactly, right? Well, it is a cliche, you know, in cybersecurity. We always say that, hey, look, criminals target on banks and financial services because that is where the money is, right?
Yes.
So even now in 2021, that remains a fact. Okay, the cyber criminal has not forgotten about financial services, even though we have IoT, we have this automotive engineering, you know, healthcare and medical. Even though this sector has established many security procedures and adopted advanced technologies, as you mentioned, there is always a way for the cyber criminals to carry out the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, you know, if one door closes, another door is open, right? There are so many vulnerabilities, attacks that they can actually, focus on. So, well, the overall crime, you know, remains the same, but the question is, who is responsible for it? Okay, and what is the method used by the bad guys, you know, in order for them to carry out the attacks? So here I am sharing on the screens the examples of the evolution of malware. From the very beginning, the first malware created in 1988, you know, until recently. And this is very interesting report because it was published in 2015. Okay, and basically they made some prediction over there after the 2015, and it is actually true. You know, if you see 2017, we focus more on the automotive engineering because we have Tesla, and then now we focus more on the IoT, and you know, but still in banking and financial, you know, we have new malware created. In fact, according to statistics, you know, for every 4 seconds, a new malware is created. So while I'm talking to you right now, Shaila, someone is creating a malware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this, you know, I just want to give one example here because of the time. Recently, a new malware supported jackpot, you know, the concept of jackpotting has been in the wild for quite some time, right? So what the cyber criminals did, they are selling ATM malware that could be deployed using, you know, a Raspberry Pi. You know, we have the Raspberry Pi kit, and we can control remotely just by using your smartphone or your laptop. You know, IoT. Mm-hmm. We go into IoT, so do the bad guys, right? So banking and financial sector has to understand that this malware evolution is very important. You know, especially now when the bad guys, even without the, you know, technical knowledge, they can just simply buy the malware. We have what we call as malware as a service. Okay, so the same as cloud as a service, you can also just buy the malware and it comes with the embedded, you know, script and everything. You just simply have to run it, right? So I wanted to share the video about the jackpotting. So just to give you some idea, even though this banking and finance has been, you know, established in terms of the cybersecurity, but still there is a new way for the bad guys to do bad things, right? Okay.
Imagine this happening to you. Or this. You will be really lucky if this ever happens to you with $100 bills. In fact, the chance of something like this happening to you is 1 out of 10 million. We have all heard of jackpots in casinos and have dreamed of getting the same jackpot in ATMs. Many cyber criminals have only one goal in mind: the ATM jackpot. There are several ways in which they do it. The easiest way to steal money from an ATM is to blow it up. Most criminals have done it because security cameras and other physical security are ineffective, although it is very dangerous for criminals themselves as they get hurt. Obviously, these methods would quickly draw the attention of law enforcement and passers-by. But there are criminals who are smarter than the previous ones.
Moving on, today a Russian security company reported that it discovered one of the biggest bank robberies ever. No guns involved. Hackers did it, breaking into more than 100 banks in 30 countries and making off with a total of as much as $1 billion. Here's Anna Werner.
They used a technique known as jackpotting. With this technique, cyber criminals use malware and special hardware to trick an ATM into ejecting all of its cash. No stolen credit card required. Several jackpotting incidents have been detected around the world.
Yeah. All right. So that was very interesting, right? So when I was doing this malware analysis, right, for my PhD, we focus more on the malware attribution, we call it. This is for us to know the author of the malware. So here, where we actually try to figure out, okay, this particular malware coming from this group, and this particular malware coming from that group. So by doing that, we can see the evolution of how, the malware author skills have been changed over time. So now the motivation of the malware author is not just about ego. It's not just about, hey, look, I can create a malware and attack you, but it is more on profit, getting money, right? So they come with this ecosystem where they have a full-time job focusing on this malware creation, right? So they have many people from different disciplines. They hire psychologists, in order for them to, exploit the human emotion. Okay, they plan it very well. They have the economists, they have the accountants, they have the technical, of course, right? So, and the fact that how they gain this, billions of money is by having this strategy. For example, this jackpotting, they targeting this to be, launched during the celebration, for example, Boxing Day in US, right? Or perhaps in Malaysia, it's during the Hari Raya celebration. We know that many people are using ATM, for shopping and everything. So nowadays, the bad guys or the cyber criminals are getting more and more sophisticated, right? Yeah, okay, we know they have the ecosystem. So the same thing that we have to have now from the defense perspective, because we always have like the red team and the blue team, right? Cyber attack and cyber defense. So that's why when we discuss about today's topic, it's very important for us to actually have this collaboration with different disciplines. For example, perhaps now we can understand about the scamming, why the scam is always happening and never ending, right? It's something to do with the psychology as well. There are many things that we can actually look and learn from the Kuliyyah of IRKHS, right? So this kind of example, it's very interesting, even though it's completely from, you know, different area, banking and finance. But somehow when we see how the bad guys are doing their stuff, then we can actually relate, you know, the ecosystem. Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's all.
Thank you. That was very interesting, especially about jackpotting, right?
Yes.
They've become quite the operation financial crimes, which brings us to our next topic, which is law and law enforcement. So Dr. Normaziah, could you please tell us what is the relationship between law and cybersecurity?
Okay. Dr. Andi has shared about how people do crimes, and obviously they have to be catched. They have to be brought to court. Yeah. So we need law also. Yeah, I just want to share with you. Obviously, law has a lot to do with cybersecurity, and we also call this area as cyber law. But before that, let me share some historical background in the perspective of Malaysia. When I was working with MIMOS, I also encountered and also assisted and see how my other colleagues, because I was involved in another project, but we also discuss and see how support each other when we do our work at MIMOS at that time. So when we brought in internet to Malaysia, of course, it was in early days, it was meant for research, and we at MIMOS, we use this for research purposes. And one time, we think that it's already mature, and the public should be able to use it for also. So we bring MIMOS helps the government to bring in the internet technology and release it for the public use. Okay, the minute you release it to the public, okay, one of the issues that can happen is security issues. So that's one of the reasons why pretty early at MIMOS, the minute we launched Jaring as the first internet service provider, which is actually the internet services in the country, we knew that security will become an issue. So a lot of works have been done by my team, our team in MIMOS at that time, whereby we have to work closely with the legal people, because when we talk about security, we talk about legal matters. And if you want to bring to court, you want to bring justice, you have to have some acts that relate to the crime, if it's a crime. Because when you open up internet to the public, it can be used for good things, it can be used for bad things. And the public consists of all kinds of people, all kinds of background, good and bad, different kind of intention also. So for that matter, Malaysia is actually at that time was one of the earliest country in Asia to enact computer crime acts. It was in 1997. We brought in internet was in public sometime in 1992, 95, up to 95. Okay? And then in 1997 already, we have managed to convince and to talk to the AG, to the government, to the ministry involved, okay, on realizing and enacting in Parliament certain acts that relate to cyber world. So there are several acts. The Crime Act 1997, Evidence Act 1993 was improved. Okay, we have Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, and many others. Okay? Digital Signature Act. All these things, all these acts. If the one that I shared here is actually one of the effort that relates to legal and cybersecurity. Okay, maybe the topic is a bit misleading because I'm talking about digital forensic, which I will talk in a while. But if you walk through the graph that I shared here, this is also where the birth of MyCert. MyCert means, which is actually a Malaysian incident cybersecurity emergency or incident response team. Mm-hmm. Every country in this world have MyCert. I mean, the developed countries. We have Japanese cert, JCert, we have AuCert, Australia cert. In Malaysia, we have MyCert. In Qatar, they have Qatar cert. Okay, and many other countries also, they have a cert. And each of these cert actually works closely together because as Dr. Andi and Dr. Hafizah have mentioned, the text actually comes from all over the world, and it's just not in the country, but globally. Okay, and each country has to work closely together because we help each other to solve some attacks and legal matters related to cyber attacks. All right, so this I just want to share with you in terms of digital forensic. That's another part. Just now I was sharing about the legal acts that has been introduced in countries. In Malaysia, I've shared a few. I think we have about 15 to 16 acts, legal acts, and it is related to cyber crime. Okay, the other perspective of legal it would be the digital evidence forensics. Okay, because a lot of things are now digitized on the network. Okay, and so the digitization, of evidence is a lot, and investigation has to rely a lot on digital evidence. So as for digital evidence, can you show the previous slide, Shaila? Okay, what I want to highlight, the previous slide, okay, the one that with the dotted lines there, okay, that's where the beginning of formal investigation of digital evidence in Malaysia. Okay, it was done at MIMOS. The law enforcement contacted the team in MIMOS, and it was a case of some case that relates to the usage of a computer in one of the agency, and they were asking us how to start doing forensic on a machine. So that's where digital forensics begins back in 1997. Okay, all right. Up to today, a lot of our law enforcement, especially the PDRM, they also have their own digital forensic lab, and they're quite mature in it also. And we also have the Cyber Security Malaysia, who has a special dedicated digital lab. Okay, next, Shaila. Next slide. Okay. In terms of digital forensic, we obviously we have to follow certain international standards. We have to follow strictly. We have to follow the digital forensic standards, so that whenever we do investigation, it complies regardless from which country that regardless of which country that we're dealing with. And it is also the important thing is it complies to the legal requirements, so that it can be accepted in court. That's more important. So we one of the international standards which is being followed is the 27037. This was we have a version of 2012, and which is still valid, but some improvement have been done. Interestingly, actually, this ISO standard was actually led by our Malaysian colleagues, and it was done quite rather intensively and effectively, and it's being accepted together by other countries. Of course, we have to work with other countries to agree on it, on all the items, and it has been agreed. So this is one of our success stories. And at the same time, as we move on, a lot of things in the standards is being improved also. Okay, next, Shaila, related to legal, I also would like to share. There are some homegrown solutions, because we have to use tools, acquisition tools for all this evidence. And this is an example that I want to highlight, where I work closely with Cyber Security Malaysia Digital Lab, Digital Forensic Lab. They have homegrown solution, which is called Cloner and Pendua. It is called X Forensic Suite. Okay, and I'm using it for class. I think, Shaila, you've experienced this also in your digital evidence class. Okay. Interestingly, with this using these devices, we bought it for the Kulliyyah and used in our courses and lab. We also, even though we are using it, at the same time, we are also trying to help to improve it. So what happened is that when I use this in class, I noticed that there's some algorithm that has to be updated, because that particular algorithm has been compromised. So interestingly, I managed to get our students, final year students, to be attached in Cyber Security Malaysia, and they managed to improve the version, and now we have a better version. So that's an example of how we can collaborate, working closely together with industry. So I think, just one last slide, Shaila. The next one. Okay, this is an example of a local case. Okay, we know this is an issue of the illegal logging is a big issue here, and crimes also happen, even though it's a physical crime, but evidence that supports that's relate to the physical crime. This is an example of illegal logging. We have image, we have transactions of financial transaction which is being done. So these are images and also evidence documents that needs to be done using digital forensic method. So that's how you can see, even in law, cybersecurity may plays a major role also. Okay, I think that's about it that I'm going to share about legal. Sure.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much, Dr. Maziah. So we are ready to move on to our next section, where we're going to discuss what CoExCyS has been working on, our current projects. So like Dr. Maziah mentioned, the Pendua and the Cloner apps, right? So Dr. Hafizah, could you please tell us more about other current projects of CoExCyS?
Okay.
Okay, I will just.
Okay. We at CoExCyS, we have different areas of expertise, right? And our research and innovation, our R&D is focused on the areas on the right-hand side here. We have blockchain security, vehicular networks, malware analysis. We do network and digital forensics, security and artificial intelligence, and secure coding. So our FYP final year project students are involved in these areas. We have also our PG students, right? For our research partners in industry and academia, on the left-hand side is a list of our partners. Jua Sembilan Berhad in our project Flood Alert and Water Monitoring System, ICF Learning Management System. We also have Cybersecurity Malaysia in our Privacy Framework project, and also with CIC, Canadian Institute of Cybersecurity, in malware analysis project. So we can see that our partners, right, not only experts or players in the cybersecurity industry only, but for example, like Jua and ICF, the application is not directly related to security. So this is a good development. The industry is aware of the need of including security into the application. So KICT is not looked after just for the software development, right? We need to develop application. Okay, look for KICT, not just for that, right? All right.
So next we have a video sharing one of our projects.
Yep.
It's called Sensei no Kuroma.
This is one of my students' final year project.
Okay, that was a very interesting project. Yes. I'd like to ask Dr. Andi to share us about more projects at CoExCyS.
All right. Yeah. For my part, I have 3 students who have developed 2 applications so far. One is called a cyber clinic booking system, and one is the cyber doctor. So the idea here was to have one-stop center for cybersecurity incidents, because I remember when I came to UIA, after the PhD, I got a lot of questions from my students, right? Asking about, hey, madam, what should I do? If I get infected with malware, what are the steps that I have to take? For example, do I just need to delete and install the application, or what next? So from that, I got idea of having this one-stop center, and alhamdulillah at that time, Cyber Sejahtera flagship was just introduced, and we had discussed this to actually have this center, one-stop center called Cyber Clinic, right? So the original plan is actually to have the clinic open at our Kulliyyah, at the CoExCyS lab, but due to the pandemic COVID-19, we have to change our plan. So we're gonna offer this online. It's still under the deployment, okay, not been published yet. So as you can see here, right, like we said that this cyber clinic is, offer services such as consultation, training talk, and digital screening. So it is the same analogy with the physical clinic, right? You go to the clinic and, you get diagnosed. So the same thing here in the digital world. What, we can do, if I can just simply give you the email address, then you can do some kind of digital screening and tell me about, what have been going on with my, account. Have I been compromised? Something like that. Or, so, but I want to highlight here, the missing key players, okay? We do have this application, but when it comes to the law-related consultation, for example, right? We need the, the expertise from iCall, for example. We need the counselor from KICT, Department of Psychology, because what happened, I do have experience, my students told me they became the victim of scam. They lost like thousands of monies. Some of them even lost like more than 10,000, and they were, being panicked, and, they didn't know what to do, right? So we need to support them, not only about the technical stuff, but also, the emotional. So other than that, right, when we discuss this, we also want to focus on the business model, right? When we offer the solution to public, for example, what should we do? Is it, for free, or, what are the things that we can also, do to maintain the service, So yeah, I think these are the 2 applications that are still on the pipeline. And then inshallah, if this can be done, hopefully it can benefit the society. Yeah, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for telling us about Cyber Clinic and CyberSec Doctor. So Dr. Normaziah, what other R&D are we doing at CoExCyS?
In addition to what Dr. Hafizah and Dr. Andi had shared, we have other team members also are doing work in our lab. Let me share a few things that I personally involved. We have our Makasih Al-Syariah Cybersecurity Barometer. Okay, it's actually to monitor an organization's cybersecurity readiness, and we have a prototype here, and we've run it with several organizations in our pilot projects. So basically, it is trying to measure an organization's cybersecurity readiness. Are they ready to deal with attack? Are they ready? Are their staff cybersecurity conscious, for example? So there's a measurement that we do, and we also map it with Makasih Al-Syariah, because all these are talking about protection of assets. So we map it against MAL, we map it against NAUS, Okay, so there's some formula that we do. So this is one, and this is actually interestingly, this is actually our FRGS project, and we work together with IRKH, with Prof. Hussin. We also consulted Markaz Syariah's expertise in Professor Luqman in IRK, and I think a few colleagues, Dr. Aznan, Brother Arad, Brother Jamal, Prof. Riza. We work on this project. It was an FRGS project, and we have a prototype for that. The next one that I want to share is something to do with IoT. This is related to monitoring water quality in agriculture, because a lot of people are also doing agriculture where they breed prawns or fish, okay, in their small pond, yeah, in their small orchard, and monitoring the water systems and water content is very important, so that that will help the things that they breed to be healthy, and also if there is any contamination, it can highlight to them, it can trigger them. So that's one, and we call it My Aquatech, and we embed security measures there, and we try to do we do security risk assessment for that particular device. So this is one of the two of the items that I have that I can share. I think maybe later I'll talk about in other aspects that you may ask. Yeah, Shaila?
Okay, so thank you. So how can other Kulliyyahs, you have already mentioned a few collaborations, right? So how can other Kulliyyahs collaborate with CoExCyS on projects?
Yeah, okay. Can you share the slides, Shaila?
Yes.
Okay, we were talking about this. We are not because we are inward looking in the university, but because we are in the spirit of ITAKRIM. So I think that's the reason why we are giving examples of a Kuliyyah perspective. Okay? Of course, it has to work also within the Kuliyyah and also within the universities. Okay, for this is just an example. We are just throwing out some thoughts about it. Okay, let's see if we talk about smart home. We can work closely together with Kuliyyah of Architecture because they may be designing their buildings, and they want this is related also to smart building. So the devices that, just like Dr. Hafizah mentioned, when they buy, security checks have to be done. Okay, and you have to, before you procure or install it, security measures has to be checked on it. So we can work together whereby they can discuss with us or get consultation or services from us. We can do some penetration tests, things like that. And if you talk about health services in hospitals or in clinics, the records, how are the records, patients' records are being kept? How is the network of the particular hospital? Okay, is it segmentized? Okay, do you segmentize the network usage of internal usage and the connection to our public? Okay, the network setup has to be segmentized, for example. And how will you secure the database? Privacy issues of the patient's health. If you do research or you want to extract or discuss about certain groups of patients, what kind of things do you do to protect the privacy of that or the groups of patients? So these are some of the views. So we can work with Kuliyyah of Medicine, we can work with Kuliyyah of Allied Health, and when we talk about monitoring water, for example, we can discuss with Allied Health also because we are talking about clean water. We can work together with Kuliyyah of Sciences because chemical proportion or things that they know better than us, for example. Okay, these are some examples. The other thing is that, for example, if we can work closely with ICOL, if I shared with you about digital evidence, we can talk. We can work on privacy issues. Okay, some of the acts, are the acts good enough? Do we have to revise it? Is the charge too small? It was introduced many years ago, so now it's 2021. So we may have to revise it together with MCMC, for example. Okay, so a lot of things like smart cities or smart buildings that may be involved by the Kuliyyah of Architecture from the urban planning or town planning perspective. So security has to be put in place when they begin the project, when they start to design. And not to forget, I think one of our colleagues, Dr. Rizal, he works closely with IBF and also Kuliyyah Economics, if I'm not mistaken, on projects related to leveraging blockchain as a security measures for some of the financial transactions, and also how it relates and how it can be used in Islamic finance. So I think those are some of the things that I can highlight, and I think a lot more can be done actually. So we really welcome other kuliyyah to work with us, to have a discussion. It may materialize, it may not, but there's no harm. And the same thing, so we also welcome our colleagues within Kuliyyah ICT. Okay, in fact, we are working closely with the AI team in the topic of digital twin, inshallah. It has not embarked yet, but it's our planning. We can work closely with the software engineering team, secure coding. We can work together closely with the HCI. What are the features of security that needs to be in when you design an applications, and obviously we should work closely with the network team. Okay, how do you configure? How do you harden the network? How do you configure the segmentation of the network, the servers, the firewall, the IDS, and so on. So these are some of the examples. Collaboration within university, the collaboration within Kuliyyah. Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Maziah. So with that, we have come at the end of our discussion for this webinar. We discussed the current threat landscape that we're operating in, and we discussed our projects with CoExCyS, and also Dr. Maziah highlighted at the end some avenues for potential collaboration, right? So we are at the end of our discussion, and that means we can take some questions from the audience now, watching us from Zoom and also on YouTube. If you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to enter them in the chat section. We'll take a look and we will ask our panelists. Let me take a look at the chat and see if we have any questions. And we have one question here. The question is, could you please share the mapping process between the maqasid and the cybersecurity areas? The cybersecurity areas will be added more in future in line with the maqasid. That is the question. The question is, could you please share the mapping process between the maqasid and the cybersecurity areas?
I think Shaila, the person is trying to interested in the first slide, I think, where there was a map. It was a simple mapping. It's just an example. That's the but for the sake of the interest of the question. Yeah. So basically, when we talk about protection of assets, so if you just think of that, Maqasid Sharia is also talking about protection of assets in a different perspective, that which has been categorized. Protection of deen, protection of nafs, okay, business, religion, nafs as life, okay, intellectual, okay, nafs, progeny, and then lineage, and obviously protection of mal, talks about financial assets. Okay? So that's the. Is that what you're asking, Dr. Azura? And there's some examples of what to be preserved and the potential cyber threats that could happen. Am I answering questions?
Okay, she's confirmed.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Dr. Azura.
All right.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, I think if there are no further questions, I think we can wrap up for today. So thank you for sending your question. So with that, we have come at the end of our webinar. I would like to thank our panelists for the very insightful discussion. And of course, I would also like to thank everyone who's watching on Zoom and on YouTube. So before I end, I would like to invite everyone to attend. I would like to invite everyone to visit the KICT booth at IIUM Takrim. And also, I would like to tell you how you can connect with us online. Excuse me. Okay, so you can connect with CoExCyS on Facebook at CoExCyS, that is CoExCyS. We are also on Twitter at CoExCyS1. You can reach us via email at cybersec-coe@iium.edu.my. You can also visit and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. So that will be all from us. I would like to pass to Dr. Amir right now. Assalamualaikum and have a great day.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Sister Shaila. All right, very interesting topic from panelists. Thank you very much, Dr. Normaziah, Dr. Hafizah, Dr. Andi. And with that, we will end our session for today.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Amir.
Yes,
sorry.
Yes, yes, Dr. Azra has an announcement.
Yeah. The last person to make an announcement. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Normaziah, Dr. Hafizah, Dr. Andi, Dr. Amir, and also Sister Shaila for the great research topic. All right, so I would like to announce the next research seminar that will be on 5th of August next week, inshallah, at 10 a.m. The title will be Al-Ghazali Minhaj Al-Abidin, Triggers and Transitions in Makam-Based System. So the speaker will be Professor Rosdina Osman, the head of Semantic Body of Knowledge and Technology Research Unit, and the moderator will be Dr. Amir. So I already put the details in the chat area, the Zoom and also the YouTube link. So inshallah next week we are going to have another research seminar from Prof. Rosdina and also Dr. Amir as a moderator. See you soon next week, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Amir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azura. Okay, so can we just take a short picture of all the participants for those of you who have a camera on? Let's just take a short picture. Just take a picture, right? Just have to unpin everyone so we can show everyone in here. Okay. Okay. So I think let's just say cheese 1, 2, 3, or shall we just take the picture? Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Inshallah, see you in the next webinar. On behalf of the Takrim Committee, thank you for the speakers. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.